Welcome to the Cup of Joe Wrestling Show.
Cup of Joe Wrestling Show?
With Joey Harris. A podcast for the wrestling fan on the go. So take your favorite beverage of choice and join Joey as he takes a look at some of the biggest shows on the WWE Network.
From makeshift studios in the shadow of South Central Virginia, this is the Cup of Joe Wrestling Show. I am your host, Joey Harris. Follow the show on Twitter at Cup of Joe Pod. Email the show at cupofjoewrestlingshow@gmail.com. Folks, today, special episode, we look at the Saturday Night's main event from November 1987. Saturday Night's main event number 8 was broadcast on NBC on November the 28th. 1987. It was taped November 11th, 1987 from the Seattle Center Coliseum in Seattle, Washington. Randy Savage says we are entering the danger zone. He talks about what the Honky Tonk Man and the Hart Foundation did last Saturday night's main event. Tonight, he says, vengeance is his. Bobby Heenan and King Kong Bundy say, rise and shine, everyone. History is going to be made tonight. Bundy Mania lives. Hulk Hogan says something about Weasel Heenan, but I can't pay attention because he's wearing his ridiculous bandana that he also had at the Survivor Series, even though this show was taped before that show. We then go to the intro. No Survivor Series talk here because this was taped previously to that broadcast. Vince McMahon and Jesse Ventura welcome us to the show. They run down that night's card. They had this spot on Thanksgiving weekend for a few years. Jesse says there's nothing like spending his Thanksgiving weekend with a turkey in a tuxedo. They show Danny Davis hitting George the Animal Steele with the ring bell from a few shows previous. Mean Gene Okerlund interviews George Steele and it's as useful as ever, meaning not very. They show a clip of Jesse interviewing Danny Davis earlier. They say if Jack Tunney banned Danny Davis for his behavior, why not ban George Steele for his? They have a point there and a place to stick it, as Sapphire and Dusty Rhodes taught us. Dangerous Danny Davis versus George the Animal Steele. Neither man really does anything for me. George Steele, I'm sure, was a nice man, but his character annoys me. Lots of stalling in this match. Davis uses a foreign object. Steele gets the flying hammerlock on and Davis's leg accidentally kicks the referee and he gets disqualified. Steele does the turnbuckle spot, then chases Davis. They review the Honky Tonk Man Randy Savage match from the last Saturday night's main event. Mean Gene interviews the Hart Foundation and Jimmy Hart. They say they are going to finish what they started. Then they show the aftermath of the Honky Tonk Man Randy Savage match with Liz getting shoved and Savage getting hit with the guitar. Mean Gene then interviews Randy Savage and Miss Elizabeth. Liz says that she is fine after the attack, but Randy Savage says he is not. He will not rest until he gets those cowards. Macho Man Randy Savage with Miss Elizabeth versus Bret the Hitman Hart with Jim the Anvil Neidhart and Jimmy Hart. Vince McMahon drools over Elizabeth as usual. The Boz shows up as he was playing for Seattle at the time, and Jesse says that he follows him everywhere looking for an autograph. There's then a Honky Tonk Man insert. He doesn't want Bret to finish Savage off. He wants a little piece left so that he can beat Savage and take Liz home. Two great athletes in action here. The Hart Foundation on the outside with Jimmy Hart and Savage comes out after them. Bret tries to get back in the ring and Savage grabs his leg. Savage drags Bret out, hits him with an elbow, and runs him into a ring post. Savage gets back in the ring, and Jimmy and Neidhart come over and check on Bret. Bret finally gets in the ring, and Savage gets him and hits him with an elbow in the corner. He hits Bret with a shot to the stomach and then rakes the eyes. He breaks on the 4 count. Double reversal of the corner whip, and Savage drives Bret into the same corner he was in and charges Bret, who moves and Savage hits the corner turnbuckle hard. Bret takes advantage and attacks Savage back. Bret chokes Savage for a 3 count. Bret with a snapmare and drops an elbow on Savage's head. Bret with an Irish whip, but he drops his head too early and Savage kicks him in the face. Savage with an elbow to the head of Bret. Bret out on the apron and Savage bends him backwards across the ropes, but the referee pulls him away before he can do anything. Savage backs off, but then runs into the ropes, catapulting Bret from the apron into the ringside barricade. Neidhart checks on Bret before getting up on the apron. Savage tells him to bring it, but Jimmy tries to get Neidhart off the apron. Savage then runs Neidhart and Hart's heads together. Savage then goes up top to hit a double axe handle to Bret on the floor. but Bret catches him with a shot to the midsection as he comes down. Liz tries to come over to check on Savage, but Neidhart attacks Savage first. He then throws Savage back into the ring. Back in the ring, Bret with an Irish whip and a kick to the stomach to knock Savage down. He comes over to the ropes and says something to Elizabeth before doing a leg drop on Savage, and Hulk Hogan just became alarmed that someone is doing his move and is fiercely going around looking for someone to show him how to do the Hart Foundation heart attack move. Bret puts Savage into the Tree of Woe. He then kicks Savage several times in the midsection. Savage gets down and Bret grabs him and hits a pile driver on Savage. He gets a close 2 count. Bret with a corner whip, and Savage gets out of the way at the last second, and Bret hits the turnbuckle. Savage then grabs Bret by the hair. He then drives Bret shoulder first into the opposite turnbuckle. Savage follows that up with a snapmare and comes off the top rope with a double axe handle to Bret. He gets a 2 count. Bret with a shot and a backbreaker to Savage. Bret goes up to the second rope and goes for an elbow drop, but Savage moves at the last second. Savage with a kick to Bret and then does his patented over the top rope guillotine to Bret. He gets a close 2 count. Savage goes after Bret on the ropes. The referee makes him back off. Savage backs the referee to the opposite ropes and rushes Bret, who backdrops Savage to the outside over the top rope. Savage lands and grabs his left ankle like he is hurt. Elizabeth tries to come over to check on Savage, but he swats her away. Neidhart and Jimmy are ecstatic. Savage tries to stand up on the injured leg, but it immediately falls down again. Elizabeth then comes over and takes some of the tape off of Savage's leg to alleviate the pain and to check the leg. Bret then comes over. Referee Jack Kruger comes in and yells at the Hart Foundation to get back, or he will raise Savage's hand right now. Do not mess with Jack Kruger. He means business. Elizabeth had taken the boot off of Savage to help with the pain, and Savage is trying to get back into the ring. He does get back in before collapsing on the mat in pain. Kruger keeps Bret away and goes over to check on Savage. After Savage says he wants to continue, Bret immediately goes for the ankle. He stomps on the ankle. Kruger briefly pulls him away. Bret drags Savage over to the corner and slams his leg against the ring post. Bret gets back in the ring and starts dropping knees on the ankle of Savage. Bret then applies a step-over toe hold to Savage. Savage finally kicks Bret away. Savage struggles and puts Hart on the top rope and lifts up on the rope, catapulting Bret backwards. Savage then gets a 2 count. Bret goes back to working on the ankle and Savage immediately grabs the ropes. So Bret breaks the hold and stomps the elbow. Bret pulls Savage out towards the center of the ring and puts a single crab on. Savage crawls and gets under the rope, so the referee tells Bret that he has to break the hold. Savage goes out to the apron and gets back to his feet, and Bret comes over and snapmares Savage back in, Bret hammering away on the ankle. So Savage reaches up and rakes Bret's face. Savage goes back out to the apron, and Bret comes over and scoop slams Savage into the ring, but Savage holds on and rolls through to pin Bret. Neidhart comes in and Savage manages to kick him away. Bret holds Savage for Jimmy to hit with the megaphone, but Savage ducks and Bret gets hit instead. Savage then grabs the megaphone and starts to go after Jimmy, who bails to the outside. Savage on the mat in pain, but he gets a tremendous reaction when he is announced as the winner. They show some Seattle Seahawks players in the crowd. Mean Gene interviews Bobby the Brain Heenan and King Kong Bundy. They don't care about Hogan or the Hulkamaniacs. They have a surprise in store for them tonight. Bobby Heenan and King Kong Bundy come to the ring. Heenan announces that Andre the Giant will be in King Kong Bundy's corner for the match. Andre then comes out. Mean Gene interviews Hulk Hogan. Bo Derek stand-in says it's 3 versus the 24-gun salute in the Pythons. He talks about power packs and blue tinge. The bandana is wrapped too tight, I think. He comes out and Hogan is still over here. WWF Heavyweight Championship match. Hulk Hogan versus King Kong Bundy with Bobby Heenan and Andre the Giant. Andre says that's my belt right before the match begins. Jesse complains that Joey Morella is the referee in the match. This is a rematch from WrestleMania 2 while simultaneously continuing the Hulk Hogan Andre the Giant WrestleMania 3 issue. Jesse points out that King Kong Bundy is staying within the rules while Hulk Hogan is breaking them. Hogan gives the big boot to King Kong Bundy, goes for the leg drop, and gets tripped by Andre the Giant. The bell then rings. The referee then throws Andre the Giant out. Andre doesn't want to go. Bundy and Heenan plead with him to leave. He knocks a cameraman down on his way out. The match then continues. Hogan batters Bundy. Hogan again gives the big boot, goes for an elbow drop, but misses. Bundy takes over and gets a 2 count. Bundy decimates Hogan, but can't get the pin. They brawl on the outside. Hogan throws Bundy in, but Heenan grabs Hogan's leg, so he gets counted out. That's the same way Hogan got out of the Survivor Series match. So if you saw both, you saw it happen twice in 2 days. Not a good turkey weekend for Hogan. King Kong Bundy wins by countout. Hogan beats up Heenan, and Jesse gives Hogan a verbal lashing because of it. And then Hogan must pose. Mean Gene interviews Hercules. He must go it alone because Heenan is hurt. He says that's okay. Bam Bam Bigelow gets the full Nelson tonight. Mean Gene then interviews Bam Bam Bigelow and Oliver Humperdinck. They say Bam Bam is better than Hercules and Oliver Humperdinck is better than Bobby Heenan. Hercules versus Bam Bam Bigelow with Oliver Humperdinck. This was a big weekend for Bigelow with a prominent spot at Survivor Series and then this match. This is a big man power match. Hercules knocks Bigelow over the ropes. They brawl outside. Boz and the Seahawks like it. Both men get counted out. Bam Bam is not happy with the draw, so the match continues. Moves of strength. Hercules goes up top. Bam Bam catches him, hits the splash, and gets the pin. We come back from a commercial and Boz wants Jesse. Jesse leaves the booth, supposedly, to go see Boz. Mean Gene interviews King Kong Bundy and Andre the Giant. They talk about Bobby Heenan and about Bundy's victory over Hulk Hogan. He wants a rematch with Andre in his corner. Jesse comes in and congratulates Bundy, then says Bundy should be the champion. Hulk Hogan is interviewed by Mean Gene. He can't deny that Bundy won and says he is ready for a rematch and wants Andre the Giant in the corner. Vince, Mean Gene, and Jesse then close out the show. Final thoughts. This was the heyday of Hulkamania, and fans can't get enough. They are laying the seeds for the main event in February. You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at TheJoeyHarris. If you like the show, please leave a review on iTunes or Apple Podcasts. I would really appreciate it. Thank you for joining me this week. This is Joey saying so long from the heart of Virginia.
The Cup of Joe Wrestling Show is a production of Baby Kangaroo Media.